me to breathe it. I think we're good. If you guys have a door next to you, do me a favor, give it a gentle jiggle. We'll make sure everything is secure before we head out. That's good.
Oh, it's funny.
Get just as weird.
What's funny? Oh, it's funny.
Oh, look at that. I can see. Alright. Okay, welcome aboard the African Tram Safari. I'm Victoria, and I'm going to be your guide as we go out and explore Africa. So before we get started, if everyone can look up above you, you're going to see a yellow strip that you're going to press in the event of a medical emergency in order to grab my attention. Those of you in the first car will notice there is no yellow strip, but don't worry. You guys are tapping on the glass, waving your hands at me. Anything can happen to you while overboard. So instead, look for any plants or animals, remember where the item fell, and let me know when we return to the station. Last but not least, there are a lot of animals out here. I can see the rhinos that finally decided to show off over here by the giraffe up ahead. We're going to be coming back here, so we will get attention. The line in motion is a moving vehicle.
Behind the wood
thingy. By remaining sitting the whole time.
I don't see it. Over there.
When we do stop to come up to the animals to get a better view of them, you guys are welcome to stand up to enjoy those better views in distance. So, we can't see a giraffe contemplating standing up on a rock, which is pretty entertaining. Just really trying to reach those palm fronds. I don't know why, they don't have patience for them. But you can see our giraffe enjoying the trees anyway. You might be able to see the long purple tongue of that one who's really trying to get to the fronds up there. Giraffes have long prehensile tongues so that they can reach up on a branch and pull all the leaves into their mouth. If you ever get to see it, it's also purple because they need a natural dark built-in sunscreen to protect their tongues that are out of their mouths all the time. And we do get to enjoy some cute rhino backsides over here, especially the one right here at the feeder showing up. So these two ladies are friends. Oh, the three ladies, my mistake. One was doing a rock impression. The one underneath the shade of that tree on the hill just disappeared for me. Never underestimate an animal's ability to hide. Even massive 5,000-pound animals like these southern rhinos can disappear very, very well. They just need the right little terrain for cover. But they are very social. Southern right rhinos live in the open grasslands and savannas, so they do live in a ladies' club. No boys allowed unless it's date night. So we do have a male southern right rhino here, but he remains separate from the ladies until it's time to romance them on a wonderful Bella Notte evening. And then all their caretakers come the next day and get to see all of the rough and tumble from it. Rhinos have very rough love lives, but it works out very well for them. Over here on the right, you can see our greater flamingo. This is a flamboyant of about 200 birds. In the wild, they get into the thousands. So a lot of our animals, like the flamingos, are all about safety in numbers. And a lot of the animals here are much bigger than they look. The flamingos were a bit away from us. But if you were on the ground next to a greater flamingo, they're almost as tall as you. They're about 5 foot. They are big birds. Flamingos live in really harsh lakes and lagoons in Africa, or East Africa in particular for the greater flamingos. They can survive in very salty or very acidic lakes that most other animals can't go anywhere near because they have very tough legs and bills. They really adapted to harsh, marine environments. Now, I believe they're very tough birds. Over here we can see another of our southern right rhinos. Over here. Yeah, rhinos do good rock impressions. So in the rock, all the African rocks over here. You never know who's going to be a rhino. I'm going to guess, by virtue of only seeing one, that this might be our male Jay Gregory. I never know if someone's just lurking against the wall in the mud wallow. But Jay Gregory lives next door to a crash of southern right rhino females. And like I said earlier, he only interacts with them during date night. But he has had about 4 little ones here. At least one of which was not from the traditional means of reproduction. He did not help out in the normal way. One of his kids was the result of artificial insemination, which is a huge milestone for us for rhino conservation. Unfortunately, all rhinos are endangered, some more than others. In the wild, there's about 20,000 southern right rhinos. They are doing the best out of all rhino species, but they used to historically be in the millions, so they're still not what they once were. But their cousins are on the literal brink. If you make a peace sign, you are literally counting the number of northern white rhinos in the entire world. The 2 remaining left are under constant guard in Kenya. But instead of giving up on that species, we want the southern white rhinos to step in and help out their cousins by becoming surrogate mothers. And we have 6 females specifically selected for that purpose. They were actually brought over here from, I believe, South Africa. But the reason artificial insemination is a big milestone towards helping northern right rhinos is because we're hoping to accomplish in vitro fertilization. So we do have a lot of frozen genetic material preserved of northern right rhinos, and we want to turn that material into embryos that we can implant into the uteruses of their southern white rhino cousins. And being able to artificially inseminate a rhino is a big step forward in that process. So it is a long way to go still. Rhino reproduction is very complicated, but we are getting a step forward every day with the amazing work of our team and care scientists, wildlife care specialists, our scientists, and you guys supporting us. All of the conservation work that we participate in and do here at the park and around the world is possible because you guys come here and contribute to it. By showing up here and learning about these amazing animals, you are helping us care for all of these amazing wild animals here at our park and our counterparts around the world. So we couldn't do what we do without you guys. Over here on the right, you guys are going to see some beautiful vultures posing magnificently for you right there in the middle on that rock in the log, with another one coming out to join the fray. So in the very back there, that is a lapis-faced vulture, a very classic-looking vulture with the brown feathers. And their name just means wrinkled face. So I love lapis-faced vultures. They look like old men with pants really high up on their chest because they have a big white patch on their chest. It's so adorable. If you ever thought vultures were creepy or ominous, I really encourage you to ever just take the time to watch them, which you can do on our Africa forest loop. Because if you see them walk around, hop around, laugh, just kind of hang out, they're very goofy, charismatic birds. That's what the back is doing. I love it when they hop. So in addition to the lapis-faced vulture, there's a couple white cave vultures. There's one in the very back in the shade. Then there's a fledgling that's a lot more brownish in tone up on the rocks. And then there's on the rocks are 2 rupal vultures, those speckled brown and white vultures. So they are really important for their ecosystem. Even if these guys are not your favorite animals, they are helping your favorites. Vultures are scavengers, so they do eat animals' carcasses. And you might think that's really gross, but they are essential to a clean ecosystem. They, by eating those dead animals, they prevent the spread of diseases like botulism and rabies. So they have very important jobs for the environment that they live in. And unfortunately, not everyone gives them the full support that they need if they're not doing so well because of those very undeserved ominous reputations, the association with death. So one of the best things you can do to help vultures is to tell people how inaccurate that is and how actual amazing and lovely vultures are in their own right. Getting other people excited about them is a great way to get other people wanting to protect them. That applies to a lot of our animals out here, but vultures are a great example of that. So we can see some of the animals all around us that benefit from vultures and other scavengers. So on our right, we have the Sovereign Gazelle, a desert antelope from Ethiopia in East Africa. So you can see on them what you see on a lot of our antelope. They are very camouflage focused with that beautiful tan color. Tan is very common for blending into the environment. There's a lot of competition amongst them because the desert is a harsh life, so everybody has horns, male and female. They are built to compete with each other. And they are very good at communicating with each other. You can see the back sides of our somerings over here. They have the cutest butts. They have owl butts. That big patch of white with that little skinny tail looks like an owl face. And it's a great example of how a lot of these animals have distinct visual markers on select parts of their bodies to signal and communicate with each other without drawing the attention of predators. I just particularly like their backsides because it's really cute. And they're very, very pretty little antelopes. On the left of us, you're going to see another desert species. Those are gemsboks. And hopefully you can tell by looking at the gemsbok with those big long horns and that beautiful black and white war paint, they are very fierce antelope. Gemsboks live in the harsh deserts of southern Africa. So they have beautiful lavender gray for camouflage. Those big long horns for competing because food and water is extremely scarce where they live. So competition amongst the herd is going to be very, very tough. And because while the horns are used for competition, they don't want to waste their energy. They have a lot of war paint, that visual display to impose and intimidate on each other. That's what all the beautiful black and white on those guys are for. So a lot of these markings in those specific places, they are communicating. On the back side, oftentimes our animals want to highlight their tails for that communication and signaling without making noise. And you can see everyone out here has a lot of markings that highlight those tails for that same reason. The Tomrags are a great example of this. And then the war paint on the gemsbok are a great example of how these animals use colors for intimidation and imposing on each other, sizing each other up to figure out who the biggest and toughest is. Even the cute little springbok over here, these little tiny tan antelopes, they live in the grasslands of South Africa. So they're tan on top and black and white on the bottom. That little racing stripe is a great visual to know that they are very fast and agile. Springbok have to evade cheetahs in the grasslands. But that stripe also has the same purpose as the black and white on the legs of the gemsbok. It's how they size each other up. So when they're in a bunch of new big migratory herds at times of the year, they can figure out who is worth challenging or having a rivalry with, who they need to fight for dominance with, and who's not worth the trouble. Our sable antelope are very similar in that way as well. You can see these ladies right across from us, the chocolate brown girl. There might be a male in here, I'm not 100% sure. But the two darkest individuals in here are the ones in charge. The darkest male and the darkest female will be the ones that are dominant at the top of the hierarchy of the sable antelope herd. On top of that, they're very territorial, so these ladies have very big, beautiful horns for imposing on each other, along with that white threat mask, just like the black and white one on the gemsbok. It's the same purpose. It highlights those horns and makes them look more imposing. So they are using color to kind of figure out who's in charge. And then they are still camouflaging. Antelopes do like to have it. So sable antelopes live in woodland environments, places that border grasslands. So they don't have the same competition for resources that the gemsbok do, but that hierarchy and that territorialness is very intense. So they need that color for that. But they also want to blend into the woodland, just like ninja in the shadows. Sable antelope can hide very, very well. And then in the shade of that tree, you're going to see the ellipse and waterbuck. Those ladies look very plain compared to these much more colorful antelope, and that is perfect for them. Ellipse and waterbuck are very camouflage focused, and as their name suggests, they live very close to the water, which is going to have a lot of food and shelter. So waterbucks don't have to worry about competition to the same degree that the other antelope around them do. So the females do not need to bother growing horns. It's not essential for them. Male ellipse and waterbuck do have horns. All antelope species have horns because males, regardless of species or habitat, are going to need the horns for competing for breeding rights or dominance with each other.
That's a nice picture of the
And I think right here, speaking of males, I think this is our male gemsbok. And the only reason I can tell that is because his one horn is extremely short compared to the other. For a while, he was actually a unicorn. His horn broke off, and it just happened to grow off in a place where he could actually grow a little bit of the horn back. But that's the only reason I can tell them apart. Everyone else has basically all the same long length horns, and he's a little lopsided. But you can see, aside from that, he looks the same as the females. In that harsh environment, uniformity is the better strategy, and males and females are equally competitive with each other, so there's no need for them to stand out from one another. With our giraffe, you can find a male. He's over by the wildlife safari truck, rubbing his head against that tree. So he's a much darker brown compared to the more orangey female Maasai giraffe. So giraffes, like antelope, do try to blend into their environment. They do want to hide, like most animals, except the Cape buffalo up ahead. And they want to blend in. Giraffes use cryptic camouflage. The reason they have those beautiful iconic spots is to break up their silhouettes and to hide in the environment immediately around them. They want to blend in with the trees where they spend most of their time. They eat 75 pounds of leaves a day, so it makes sense. And the spots break up their silhouette and obscure them. But Golan, being a big 18-foot tall bull giraffe, doesn't have to worry about predators the way a lot of our smaller animals do. So he can afford to stand out and look a little extra pretty for the ladies. And you can see our youngest little girl hanging out with her mom or her auntie right there. I can't remember her name, but she's about a year old. Our little giraffe right across from us has this Wilma. She's a year old this month, so she's the smallest one in the herd, and she's absolutely adorable. And then right here, we're going to see the big fierce Cape buffalo. So the buffalo are using the same strategy as the gemstock with the war paint, but the buffalo are doing it all over. Nothing about them is blending in. And as you can see, it's because they are so massive. They don't really need to. The only thing that outclasses a buffalo in terms of size is a rhino or an elephant. And these guys have the advantage of having big, dense herds. So this is a female herd with a bunch of calves. You can see they're quite large and massive, and you don't want to mess with them. These are something that you want to give a very large, respectable distance to because they can take anything out. They're nicknamed a mob for good reason. They're a very protective family unit. On top of just being very physically imposing and intimidating fierce animals, they're very protective of each other. They're very defensive of the family group. So you don't want to ever mess with that. And that dark black color is communicating all of that by standing out in the environment and showing off that they do not need to hide. Everything knows I'm going to keep away from the Cape buffalo, which is a good strategy. Up here on the right, you're going to see Dune, our dromedary camel. This is our desert habitat over here. So he's a retired ambassador. You can see like a lot of our antelope, he has that beautiful tan coloration. He blends into his desert home. And he doesn't have any flashy colors because it would stand out on an animal that big. He used to be an ambassador. He used to do a lot of presentations. Now he's enjoying retirement. I like to liken him to a kind of an older gentleman kind of rocking out on the patio and kind of watching everything. But he does still have a good active social life because he's got a bunch of wild ass ladies with him. Those beautiful silvery Somali wild ass that you see over the pepper trees are his gal pals. So that is a female herd. And that's actually a critically endangered species. So it is really cool that you get to see the Somali wild ass over there. Not many places have them. We're one of only, I think, 5 facilities in the U.S. that do. They are critically endangered. Unfortunately, they're facing a lot of habitat loss because of loss of food and water in the deserts where they live, so their environment is becoming more extreme. And they're being overhunted because Somalia has a lot of civil unrest and political strife. And the country as a whole is not in a place to care for its wildlife, so we cannot actively go there and help that species in the wild. But they're also a good example of conservation long term because we are not giving up hope on the Somali wild ass. We want to make sure we have a healthy backup population so in the future when we are able to help the species in the wild, we will be ready to do so. That applies to a lot of the animals out here, but they're in particular a great example. And conservation sometimes does take a while to make happen. Down below, by the theaters over there, you're going to see our young male roe antelope. Those boys are cousins of the chocolate brown sable antelope that we just saw earlier. And while they're a lighter color because they live in the grasslands of Central Africa instead of the woodlands of South Africa, roan antelope are just as fierce, just as competitive as their cousins. They basically have the same lifestyle. They have a hierarchy, they're very territorial, and they're showing it off. They have those big horns, very imposing physiques, and a threat. The boys down there are still kind of teenagers, so they're not quite full grown yet. Over here, again, on the left side, on the green hill, you're going to see those pretty little Ugandan cows. Just like the little water bugs, those ladies are very clean. Because they live in the grassland in East Africa where they don't have to have a lot of intense competition. It's not part of their lifestyle. They're also much more vibrant colors than the other grassland animals, the roads over here that we can see on the right. This is a group of females and their calves. full turn from them and see just how fierce they are. But these are both grassland antelope on either side of us. We can see the total difference in lifestyle that they both have in the different regions of Africa. But if you do want to see how well these colors are for camouflage, Yvonne and Cloud especially are a great example. If you get a picture of those ladies on the left, they blend in really well with the gray hills here because their orangey color matches it almost perfectly. And that is because they cannot tell the difference. So if you do take a photo, put your photo in black and white to see how effective that is. Most mammals are actually colorblind. So they do see color, but they don't see the difference between red and green like we can as primates. Humans are weird like that. So black and white photos are a better simulation to see how effective camouflage is when the animals are out in the open like this for us. But even in full color, they can still hide. Like I said, never underestimate an animal's ability to hide. The trade-off for that lack of color vision that we have is they have much better night vision. They see in the dark way better than we do. And then also on a personal note, this one lady was looking straight at us. Roan antelope are very big, they're very imposing, but if you look at her ears, they have really big floppy ears, which I just find very adorable. They're very fierce, imposing antelope, but their ears are really unique. So we're going to get another look at some of the top ladies over here. Leave this profile now. And over here, the kudu boys being very sweet with each other. Just like the Roan antelope in here, these are young teenagers. You saw the greater figure. They're one of my favorite animals. That's why I had to point them out. They're one of the best animals. They are not full grown yet. The greater figure have the long antelopes. They have long way to go for the and they would have vision that would come their way. We get to actually see our black rhinos. So you can see are doing really good rocking practice. Doing really well with the rhinos. That is Kendi down there. He's our male East African black rhino. And he does have a lady friend over here. Her name is Aria. I don't see her, but you never know. She could be in plain sight and I'm just blank. So we do have a breeding pair here. We are really good at caring for rhinos. Our best success is with the southern white rhinos. We were the ones who figured out that they're social and need big social groups to reproduce. Black rhinos do tend to be more solitary, so Ari and Kendi are kind of on an extended honeymoon living together. But hopefully in 18 months they give us a cute little baby black rhino, because that's how long their gestation takes. It is really important for them. Unfortunately, there's only about 5 black rhinos left in the wild in East Africa. So these two are really important for the future of their species. Are your favorite animals? One of the best ways to tell them apart is by looking at their heads. Ignore the names. The names are a misnomer. If a rhino rolls around in the mud, you are not going to know what color they are. And they're all variations of rhinos. But they have different environments that they occupy and different feeding preferences. So black rhinos actually have smaller, more mobile heads that they can reach up and browse with on branches above them. While the white rhinos that we saw are very massive grazers. They have low, heavy heads for grazing on grass, like lawnmowers. Best way to tell rhinos apart, look at their heads. Right here are the Giraffe zebra boys. So these guys live on themselves because zebras can be a lot. They are related to Somali wild ass and they have that family relation. They share a family trait with those personalities. But echoes in general tend to bite and kick. And it can be very dramatic, especially these young teenagers living on their own. So a lot of other animals don't always want to have to deal with the dramatics of zebras at grooming. And that is fine. We want our animals to live with animals that they like. But zebras often do like being on their own. They don't like sharing food and resources with other large especially being on their own and being in charge of where they live. So that doesn't happen on the base. Down below, we're going to do our giraffe. Literally where the giraffe are right now. You can see they have very even bottom. And then you right across from me down below in this little gulch looks a lot like a bonsai tree. And that is the giraffe literally shaping the trees in their habitat. Giraffe are landscapers. So when you imagine the Serengeti or the savannah, and you kind of picture that thorn tree with a very even edge and kind of an umbrella shape, that is the giraffe impacting the shape of that tree. And then if you look at the trees outside on the right of us, trees that don't live with giraffe, they are very old, very round, and their branches go much lower to the ground. So you can really see the visual impact that giraffes have on trees around them versus trees that don't live with giraffe. It is good for the environment. A lot of those umbrella-shaped trees that they feed on act as nurseries for other plants and animals. So they are benefiting other species around them. Like the Patterson eland down there in the middle of the hill. That's the largest species of antelope. And there's a whole herd over here, but Patterson eland are very comfortable with themselves and are very okay being independent. So they do have a herd, but they don't stay closely associated with each other unless they have a lot of young to care for. And our herd of Patterson eland right now don't have to worry about that. The perk of being big, less things to mess with them. But just like with the giraffe, a lot of these animals do impact each other. So even if you're not seeing your tip-top favorite animal out here, hopefully learning more about these guys does improve the rankings for you in terms of what you fall in love with. But also know that they do help whatever your favorite species are. It's just like the Lion King says, it's a big circle of life. That's easy, but it's very true. These animals impact the environments where they live just as much as the environments impact how they look. And a lot of these animals eat different parts of the ecosystem. They each go for different plants and different parts of plants. So they can all coexist together, and they can all help the ecosystem thrive by allowing new growth as they graze, fertilizing the area where they live, and letting everything around them thrive. And that's why we love having these animals living out there. It's the diversity that they provide. That's why
I'm saving my dog.
this is another reason conservation is so important. We don't know sometimes what the disappearance of a species will do to the environment where it lives. It might do nothing. It might completely decimate the place where they're from. But even if they don't impact where they live, those animals should be out where they live natively. That is our goal with all these animals. We want everything to thrive. That's a lot of success. So whether it's our beautiful baby southern white rhino up on the hill there that you can just see, that is Chimaria, sneaking up on me. So I have the golden tree blocking my view of her, but she's right up on the hill behind that tree. She's a brand new baby rhino. She was born in August. I have not seen her all week, so I am very surprised to see her. Delightedly so.
No, I can't.
But if you love rhinos, you can just see a baby. We're going to circle around that tree and just keep going up on that hill. You can see that little one. She's in profile. She's looking real cute. She's a sassy little princess. She loves to cause trouble by running into the herds of other animals because she knows she can't do anything because she's got mom. No one messes with a big 5,000-pound mom. Even these Cape Buffalo boys, she will run into their herd and it'll be like nobody move. Because they know her mother can't sit right there. Oh, I'm so delighted to see her. She's so stinking cute.
See the baby?
Yeah, I'm trying to angle it so we can all get that beautiful view of everything hanging out together because this is quite magnificent. You get to see all of the antelope, the Cape Buffalo boys, the giraffe, our beautiful southern white rhinos, and our baby Chimaria up on the hill. There's a lot to see. So you guys do love these animals. A great thing to do when you go home is to continue to be their allies for wildlife. You're supporting everything here, as I said before. You're being allies for wildlife and walking through our front door. But you can continue to do so. A great way to get other people involved is to just talk about these animals. Tell everyone how cool it is to see a baby rhino and a baby giraffe and all of these animals interacting. And no matter what you fall in love with, whether it's how these animals live and thrive in the environments where they're from, or some of the conservation work we do to help them, because a lot of these animals are under threat in the populations in the wild, including our iconic rhino and giraffe, our favorite breed couple. And raising the education and awareness about a lot of these animals, about how they live, or what they do in the wild, just how cool they are. Anything at all to help get awareness and getting people excited about them and continue to be their allies. But with that, we are coming to a close. I can't stay out here forever with you guys, or you will get annoyed at me. But I do hope you had a lovely tour. I hope you learned a lot out there. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns about, or curiosities about anything that we saw or anything I missed, feel free to hit me up by the exit of the station as you guys are heading out here. Thank you for joining me and have a lovely day.
Thank you.
Thank you.